This video is going to be installing a Underfolder stock on AK47 with the Underfolder trunnion in place inside the receiver. Before you begin this, I would recommend cleaning up your receiver, maybe put a light coat of oil or grease on any bearing surfaces. And another important thing I would look at is making sure any hole where you're going to drive a pin, try to test fit your pins to the holes, make sure they're going to fit okay. For example, on my center or my internal locking lugs, this hole here is a lot smaller than this one there. And you can see there's little stake marks on either side of the hole, and it indicates to me this is the hole I want to have facing up. So when I drive that pin through, it'll fit easier. First thing we're going to do is go ahead and put our sling swivel attachment onto our center support. Pretty simple. Just going to set that to the side for just a second. I like when doing it this way. I'll take my internal locking lug and kind of get that in place on the hole so that the two wings are poking out. Bearing in mind I want that larger hole facing up. That's where I'm going to drive my pin. Take my stock, start with the side first, place it right on there just like that, and kind of hold it in place. Bring the other end up, kind of hold it in place there. Switch hands real quick. I'll take our center support and drive it through there, all the way through to the other side. So now our internal locking lug is going through the trunnion, the receiver wall, into the stock itself. There's that part. That's probably the hardest part in my personal opinion. Next thing we're going to do is we're going to take the slide locking nut. Again, this is one of those you want to bear in mind your holes. Some of these holes aren't the same as the others. Eventually what we're going to want is the hole facing up if we're going to drive a pin. So you might want to fit that, possibly drill it out. And if you see in this case, it was, I can find it again. There's some stake marks on it right there. That's the preferred hole I'd like to get up if possible. So we'll start screwing that on, not all the way. Let's get threaded and started. Then take my external locking lugs. See how it's got the slot and the hole in there. Keeping in mind I want to keep that slot up if all possible. Just get that started. We'll pull back on the center support, revealing this hole right here. Now this is the hole that I didn't use the last time I assembled this because I didn't have that third pin. I've got plenty of pins now, so it shouldn't be an issue. Just gotta take one of my pins, place it in this hole. Now I don't know about yours, but mine is very loose, which is no big deal because you'll see in a minute when we push this in place, it doesn't matter how loose it is. Push it down so, I don't know, about a millimeter or so is sticking up. When you get it just right, might push it down a little bit more. Push it down too far, you have to start over. When you get pushed in there, you should push the whole center support in, and the pin will disappear into the cuts into the Underfolder trunnion. So there's where we're at that. Alright, so we got that going. We're going to go ahead and tighten up our slide locking nut. Keep in mind our holes here. I'm going to try to get that. I'll use that hole. As I go any further than that, it's not tight enough. Alright. Another hole. Bearing in mind that slot right there, keep that slot. It should be pointed up because we're going to drive a pin through here. I checked ahead of time if that pin sits in there pretty good. Tap to get started. This pin here, you could tap it flush, even a little bit more than flush. Recess it a little bit. Good. As long as my external locking lug engages, make sure it doesn't rub or anything like that. It looks like it is. In fact, I might pound in just a little bit more. Make sure it's not rubbing on there. This thing is kind of tight. Let me get to this angle. guess I'm going to get it. Alright, engage our external locking lugs. Engage our internal locking lugs. We got our pin there and our pin there. Alright. Next step is going to be to insert our little spring here, or push button spring, into the cavity where it goes. I'm going to take my pin, I'm going to get it started here into the hole in the internal locking lug. That kind of drops in there pretty good, so I'm going to take my push pin here with that hole. There's a hole on both sides. It should be equal on both sides, hopefully. If not, you're going to probably have to fix that. And I'm looking down in there. Get this out of the way for a second. You can see the push pin come through, and you can see the hole appear there. That's my push pin hole. And obviously, we want to line that up with our locking lugs. So we have a straight hole that goes through everything, right down through the bottom of the receiver. There's where we want it. So that's why it helps to have this stuff loosen up, a little bit pre-fitting done to it. Alright, pushing as far as I can go. I'm into the push button. That's as far as I can hand push it. It's starting to get tight with all the tension on it. So we'll just gently tap it on in. And we get it to its flush. And there we have all of our pins. And the big difference between that third pin that I didn't put in the first time is this swing swivel won't spin as much. It's also a lot more solid the way it's meant to be. And that's how we put it together. And I periodically take this thing apart and service it, clean it up pretty good before I don't do it very often, but just to make sure I don't have any rust or anything like that. So that's the proper 3-pin installation for the underfolder trunnion on the AK47. And after that, you just put your hand grip back on and put your parts back in the receiver, and it's good to go. And of course, test it for fit and function after that. Also, I'll be doing a video on how to take it apart from scratch with all 3 pins as well. Hope you enjoy, and if you have any questions, feel free to let me know.